What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Behind Show. Today is September 7th, 2021, and in this video, I'm going to be continuing my series and doing some record predictions for each NFL team. I just did one of the Philadelphia Eagles, so make sure to go check that out. This is of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Steelers are very, very interesting. They actually ended up winning their division last season, as crazy as that sounds, especially looking at their team now and just lots of people think they're going to decline and play. I'm one of those people as well. Their schedule is actually very, very difficult. Majority of the teams they're playing against are playoff contenders. So let's go ahead and get started here. Week 1 at Buffalo. This will be an interesting game. Josh Allen's an MVP, candidate this season. He was phenomenal last year. And going up against a Steelers defense, regardless if it's a home or away game, is not easy. And, looking at this game, Allen's expected to be phenomenal. The Steelers' defense are expected to be good, but you look at their offense, I don't really trust their offense. They bring in Najee Harris, a first-round running back from Alabama. I think he's going to be good for them, but I just don't see the Steelers be able to keep up with the Bills in points. And it's not the Bills are going to score a ton of points because it's hard to score against the Steelers, but even just like 20 or so points, something like that, I don't think it's going to be easy for the Steelers to keep up with the Bills. So the Steelers losing week 1 to start off 0-1. Week 2, a home game against the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they're able to pull this game out with a victory here. I think it might be close, though. The Raiders are one of those teams, so you have no idea what type of team's going to show up. They could beat the best team in the league. Next week, they could lose to the worst team in the league. They are basically the definition of average and inconsistency. All the Raiders really have to do, all the Steelers really have to do is able to stop Darren Waller, and I feel like the Steelers defense and their team will be just fine. They have a nice running back duo, and Kenyon Drake and Josh Jacobs, but it's hard to rush against the Steelers defense. If they stop Waller, I think they'll be just fine, and I think it'll make kind of a hard day for Derek Carr. I have the Steelers winning this one here. They improved to 1-1. Week 3, they host the Cincinnati Bengals, and I know lots of Bengals fans who think the Bengals will win this game here in Week 3. I just don't see it because I think it's going to take time for Joe Burrow to be his full self again. After the horrific season-ending injury last year, some people think he should not be starting in Week 1. I don't really. I understand why people say that, but here in Week 3, you're playing in Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers not going to be as good, but it's always hard to play at Heinz Field. And with Burrow, I think he's going to struggle a little bit. The Bengals' offensive line has played much, much, much better than people think they have, like they thought they would in preseason so far. But I don't see the Bengals winning here in Pittsburgh. Now, of Cincinnati, I think it's a completely different story, and especially as that game's further along down the season. But just being here in Week 3 when Burrow's still kind of getting used to playing regular on the field, I just don't see the Bengals being the Steelers here. I feel like the Steelers defense will step up, and I feel like their offense might play pretty decent here because the Bengals defense is average or pretty much best. With this win, they improved to 2-1. Week 4 at Green Bay. You look at the Packers. Honestly, I think the Packers are a little bit overrated this year. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers won the MVP last season. He's expected to be an MVP candidate again. And, the Steelers' defense is great, but I just don't think they'll be able to stop Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and Devontae Adams. You can make a case it's probably the best quarterback, running back, and wide receiver trio in the NFL right now. I would say it probably is. And I think it'll be too much for the Steelers to stop. The Packers have a pretty decent defense, not great, not horrible. It's one of those situations where I just don't think, the Steelers' offense will be able to keep up with their opponent. Even if they're giving up points, or even if they're not giving up points, I still think it'll be hard times for the Steelers to score some points. I have them losing here, and they dropped to 2-2 on the year. Week 5, they host the Denver Broncos. This game's interesting because last year the Steelers nearly lost to the Broncos when Drew Lock got hurt and backup quarterback Jeff Driscoll had to come in. I believe that was at Pittsburgh. It's interesting because I don't know who is going to be starting here, Bridgewater or Locke. Bridgewater was announced that he will be starting week 1. But looking at this Broncos team, there's a reason why, some people think they're going to be good, including myself. Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, KJ Hamler, all three of those guys on rookie contracts, some very, very young, good receivers. You have Noah Fant, who's a good young tight end. They just drafted Javonte Williams. They have a decent offensive line, a good defense. If they can find a consistent quarterback, I think they're going to be really good. But with the inconsistent quarterback play heading up against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, you do not want to have an inconsistent quarterback play against the Steelers at Heinz Field. That has potential to be disastrous. But I have the Steelers winning here, and they end up improving to 3-2. Week 6, they host the Seattle Seahawks. I have them losing this game here. The Seahawks are another one of those teams who I think are slightly overrated. I just think Russell Wilson, he's had very bad offensive lines for years, and he's able to pull through and have MVP-like seasons and be phenomenal for years, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And this is really no different, playing against a great defense against the Steelers. With his bad offensive line, Seattle, I think, is able to, scramble, get out of the pocket, throw to Tyler Lockett. Metcalf, who is going to have a great year. Dwayne Eskridge, the rookie receiver they drafted. I don't know if you call this an upset or not, because I feel like in a way this is kind of an upset. I think the Seahawks are expected to be better, but it's the fact, the Steelers defense is going to be, giving the Seattle Seahawks a hard time. This is at Pittsburgh in Heinz Field. But I have the Seahawks putting up a victory here. The Steelers drop to 3-3. Week 7's their bye week, and I would say that's what you should expect. 3-3, I would say that's the best case scenario heading into your bye week. Week 8 at Cleveland. This is a rivalry, the rematch from last season's playoff game. This one is in Cleveland. I just do not see the Steelers competing and being close with the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield is not a great quarterback, but it's to the point he just has to play average, and nobody, for the most part, can be close with Cleveland because how much of a talented roster they have. They probably have the second best talented roster in the NFL right now. Definitely the best roster, in my opinion, probably in the AFC. Despite this, great, Steelers defense, the Steelers last time they played the Browns, they gave up like 40 points against them in the playoffs last year. So Browns capable of having, great games against the Steelers. I have the Steelers dropping here, and they lose this one to 3-4 on the year. Week 9 against the Chicago Bears, I feel like they're going to win this game here. I believe this game is on Monday Night Football. And, Justin Fields is definitely going to be starting at this point, obviously. I feel like this has possible a horrible situation for the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields. The Steelers defense is awesome. I mean, it's great. And you look at it, and the Chicago Bears offensive line is, okay. Justin Fields, he's a mobile quarterback. He's a scrambler. But I feel like the Steelers defense is going to give him a very, very hard time. And the Steelers win this one easy. They improve to 4-4. Week 10, they take on the Detroit Lions. And this one's kind of interesting because the Lions, I don't think the Lions are going to be good, but they have a much better offensive line than people think. So I don't feel like the Steelers might not be getting as many, pressures or sacks as they normally would in the game. But just with the Lions' crappy, team in general, they have a nice offensive line. They have DeAndre Swift. For the most part, that's it. I feel like this is one of those situations where you can maybe see the Steelers score 30 or so points in this game. That's not going to be very likely this season. But with the Lions' defense, it's not really good. I can maybe see the Steelers scoring quite a bit of points here and defeating the Lions here, and they improve to 5-4. Week 11 at the LA Chargers. This one's interesting because, the Chargers' offensive line last year was horrendous, but they bring in Corey Linsley from Green Bay and they drafted Rashawn Slater. I think that's, those are two huge pieces to their team this season. I think that's really going to benefit them and help them win maybe a couple more games. And, example, a game like here against the Steelers. If they did not have Slater, they did not have Linsley, I would probably give this one to the Steelers. But the fact that their offensive line group got some much-needed help in the offseason, some top players. I think Herbert's going to have a phenomenal season. I just don't think the Steelers will be able to stop the Chargers offense here. They dropped to 5-5 on the year. Week 12 at the Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to beat the Steelers at least once this year. I don't think they're going to sweep them. I think this week 12 here, the Bengals will beat the Steelers. I mean, we saw it last year on Monday Night Football. To this day, I still don't know how it happened. Honestly, being a Bengals fan, I honestly thought the Bengals were going to lose by 40 plus points. And to me, that's just one of the craziest wins the Bengals have ever had. And, with this being week 12, I think it's more possible because it's easier to win in your home field than it is Heinz Field. Burrow is going to be more comfortable. And I feel like, this Bengals team might be, kind of in their groove, maybe around this week 10, 11, 12 area. And I mean, they beat him last year with Ryan freaking Finley. They're definitely capable of beating them with Joe Burrow this year. I feel like, the Bengals offensive line, like I was saying earlier, is a little bit better than people give them credit for. I think the Bengals are able to pull away. I don't know if you would say an upset victory here. I guess you would say an upset victory here in week 12, and the Steelers dropped to 5-6. Week 13 against the Baltimore Ravens are able to pull up a victory here at home. And I know the Ravens are expected to have, a pretty nice season, but they lost J.K. Dobbins, they lost Justice Hill. What are those running backs out for the year? And despite the Steelers probably not going to be as good, as they were last year, these games are always very, very close. It seems like majority of them are one-possession games. They're always, great games. One of the bigger rivalries in the NFL and the Steelers and the Ravens. I feel like the Steelers might give Jackson and whoever the running back is, along with Gus Edwards, some trouble. They were to pull off a victory here, keep it a low-scoring game, and they improve back to 500. Week 14, they go on the road to take on the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, to me, have a very, very underrated team. Dalvin Cook averaged nearly 140 yards last year. Kirk Cousins was extremely underrated. Justin Jefferson was the best rookie receiver we've ever seen. Adam Thielen was really underrated. I think Irv Smith Jr. has potential to have a breakout season. With a decent offensive line, I think that's going to be too much for the Steelers' defense to control and contain. I have the Steelers dropping this one here, and they lose, and they drop to 6-7 on the year. Week 15, they get an upset victory here at home against the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, they traded to get Julio Jones in the offseason. But to me, I feel like the Titans are a little bit overrated. Their defense is horrendous. They have Derrick Henry, one of the best running backs in the league. They also have A.J. Brown. But Ryan Tannehill, to me, he needs to step up and prove that he's not just a game manager. And I feel like this defense for the Steelers is going to give Tannehill some trouble because I don't trust Tannehill to win a game by himself. He has to have the weapons around him. And that's exactly why they traded to get Julio Jones. They're going to be pressuring him a lot, get some batted balls and stuff like that. Maybe get a couple picks and pull a victory here against the Titans and improve back to 500 and 7-7. Week 16 at Kansas City, I don't see them beating this one here, and I do not see them stopping the Chiefs, offense. The Chiefs have a much improved offensive line. That was their main issue in the offseason. They, got Orlando Brown in the trade. They signed Joe Thuney. They drafted Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma. Their offensive line is much better than it was last year, and the Steelers overall, talent-wise, I don't think it's as good as it was last year. So I just don't see the Steelers be able to compete with the Chiefs. I feel like this is going to be a long day for the Steelers. They drop to 7-8. Week 17, home game against the Cleveland Browns. I don't see the Steelers being the Browns. I feel like the Browns are going to sweep the Steelers here. Just their roster is too talented. Baker Mayfield doesn't have to play great. He just needs to play good for this Browns team to win. The Browns have a great defense. They'll easily stop the Steelers offense. The Steelers offense is nothing to brag about. This Browns defense is top 10. This Browns offense is top 10. I just feel like the Browns are going to beat the Steelers in this one. And then the last game of the season at Baltimore, I had them losing here. I feel like they're going to end up splitting the series between these two teams, the Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I think they'll each get a victory, and they'll each of their wins will be, the Steelers will get a home victory while the Baltimore Ravens will get a home victory as well. But with this loss here, they dropped to 7-10. My record prediction for the Steelers is 7-10. And Steelers fans, I know you might think, I might be being biased because I'm a Bengals fan. I hate the Steelers, but I do hate the Steelers. I'm not even going to lie. I'm not going to lie to you. The Steelers are the team I hate the most in the NFL. But looking at this, look at all my losses for the Steelers. Every single team they lost to is a playoff caliber team. So it's not like I'm having them lose to crappy teams. And I do have them winning a couple games against playoff caliber teams like the Ravens, like the Titans. And this AFC North division is no joke. It is not being talked about enough how hard it is. I think the I know I sound crazy. I really think the Bengals are playoff contenders. I feel like the Steelers are kind of in that just slightly below that playoff contender area. Obviously, the Browns are Super Bowl contenders. The Ravens are playoff contenders as well. So this division is very, very tough. That about does it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would really, really, really appreciate it. And we'll see you all next time on the Sports Suit Hunt Show.